Hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Behind the Camera with Andy Games. I'm your host, AndyGames underscore 94, and this is the podcast where I interview streamers and content creators with the aim of just getting to know that person a little bit more behind the camera. Today, our guest is CraigyBoi, DeadGuyDrives. Welcome in, CraigyBoi. How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you, Andy?
All good, man. All good. Thank you again for taking the time to come on to this today. Honestly, it's very, very much appreciated. And also, I feel like I should start by saying congratulations on your recent wedding. Honestly, very, very happy and excited for you. Like, what a, that's, and I did see the photos you put up in your Discord. Absolutely beautiful. Like, honestly, I'm very, very happy for you, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we are we're excited. My wife and I have been together for over 9 years already. We did about half of that long distance.
Oh,
So we've lived together for a good bit at this point, but it was nice to I think everybody was just waiting for when is the wedding going to happen, and now it's happened. And
yeah.
there's an excuse to go on a nice trip.
Oh, of course, of course. Yeah. How was the honeymoon as well?
It was great, and I think I've mentioned to you that was my first time that I had been to Europe at all. We went to Paris and stayed pretty close to where like the Notre Dame and the Louvre
Oh,
are.
beautiful.
It's super easy to walk around and do things in Paris, so we did as much of that as we could. Saw all the sights. They're setting up for the Olympics, of course, right now. So
Of course.
some things were like blocked off, and it was hard to get to some places because they have all these like big like metal fences on the streets and stuff
Okay.
that are just to help control traffic
Yeah,
and
for
stuff. So that
sure.
made it a little bit um, you know, it was a little bit annoying, but they had the Olympic rings up on the Eiffel Tower, so I think it
Oh,
was all
that's
worth it.
yeah, that's awesome. Like, what a time to go as well, especially with
Oh yeah.
with setting up for the Olympics. So that's amazing. And see as well, like just on that, how are you getting used to saying like my wife now? After all this time, like, have you gotten used to it yet, or is it still just like a kind of like, you say, oh yeah, my wife, and like, oh shit, yeah, my wife.
It was one of those things where saying my wife was really, really cool to say
hmm
right when it happened, but I knew before the wedding even happened, I was like, I cannot wait to start using a one-syllable word in wife as opposed to a three-syllable word in fiance. That fiance is such an awkward word to say, and realistically, what my wife and I were doing before was basically living as a married couple would. So like
hmm
wanted to say wife for a long time, and it's nice to be able to do that.
Oh, that's amazing, dude. I 100% agree with that notion. Like, I'm obviously not too far behind in that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it gets to the point, like, even at first, like, when I first got engaged, I was like, I loved saying, oh yeah, my fiance, like, because it was like, obviously it's a nice step up from saying girlfriend or
Mhm.
partner for me anyway.
Mhm.
And then, and then now I'm at the point, like, nearly 2 years on, I'm like, just, yeah, I'm sick of saying it's too many fucking syllables, man.
It's a weird word to spell. Are you supposed to use the
Yeah.
2 or the 1 E?
Oh
Like,
man, I had to
just
Google it
give
like
me the 4 letters.
so many different times, especially when it came to like, buying like cards and stuff. I was just like, is it
Mm.
is it one E or the two E's with the little thing? I don't know. But no, dude, that's amazing. No, honestly, very, very happy for you. And I'm so glad you had a great trip as well, especially for being your first time, out in Europe, and heard like nothing but good things about Paris. So that's good, man. I'm very, very happy for you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, thank you.
Oh. So obviously I'm sure you know the premise of this by now. So just sort of, the aim of this is for, like communities to just say to get to know you a little bit better. The person that everybody would spend so much time watching on the screen, playing Mario and whatever else. Just, get to know you a little bit better. So first thing I want to know is, so let's go back right to the start. So what are like the origins of DeadGuyDrive? Because, like, safe to say, you burst onto the sort of Mario 64 speedrunning scenes, with your, 120 runs. Like, but the difference is with yourself, you started out on Twitch as opposed to a lot of people who we know who started off on TikTok. So like, you know, what did the beginning of your journey look like? You know, how did you get into this? Because I've always seen you on TikTok as well, but I always ever saw you just streaming on Twitch. So how did all of this just come about? All it come to be?
Yeah, I'll even just step back a little bit to how I got into speedrunning stuff in general, because
Hmm.
that's how I got introduced to this community. I've I mean, Super Mario 64 is a game I've always played. It's literally the first game I ever owned. So over the years as I was playing it, you pull up YouTube and see these people doing like wild tricks in the game. So I always tried to emulate them myself, and
Hmm.
but I never did full speed runs really.
Yeah.
Um, I did keep up with speed running when I got like into high school. I think I was watching a lot of like games done quick, those type of events,
Mm.
um, and keeping up with that over the years, but super casually. Fast forward to last year, I had deleted my TikTok a few years prior, and I guess I was bored one day and decided I wanted to just get it again, or maybe somebody was sending me TikToks and I was tired of watching them in the web browser instead of the app itself.
Yeah, for
So I
sure.
re-downloaded it again, and um, at some point I started seeing the Super Mario 64 speedruns on there. And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know they had live video things on there in the
Yeah.
first place, and that people were streaming the game, like speedrunning the game." I think I gotta think about this now. I think early on, I was watching, Beats was the first person that I really, like, sat down and was engaged
Yeah.
with his stream. And I was still kind of like I wasn't sure like how to like interact with people in the streams and stuff. So that was kind of just an area where I was figuring things out, watching him play, and he was getting really good at the time. So if you think about this, this was like August or September of last year that I was really getting into it, and he had started a few months prior. And speaking of somebody who's gotten really good and just blew up, like Beats is amazing at Super
Oh
Mario
yeah. He
64.
is
So it was a
insane.
really cool. Oh, yeah. So it was a really nice spot to show up, learn a little bit more about the game and watching the practice happen over and over again. Plus getting introduced to a lot of the community. Because a lot of the people that I know and still talk to and hang out with on other streams, I ran into first in Beat streams.
Hmm. Yeah. Like,
So that was kind of like a starting spot.
yeah, and that's like the good thing as well. Like, because I've definitely heard the term the Mario 64 community thrown out a lot by
Mhm.
like a lot of people. And like, that's genuinely what it is because like, everybody like, around this, I suppose it's more the TikTok circle, the sort of TikTok side of things. Because like how many people we know who exclusively started on TikTok. And like, I
Mhm.
think it's because, for that, it's like, it's so easy to just be scrolling through, like, yourself. That's how you stumbled across Beats. That's how I stumbled across Logan. And that's how it really starts. And like, I think so many other people like in the same position as us, that's probably how they started too. But like what I find like incredible about it is that like, you'll scroll through and you'll see somebody streaming, you'll go into their chat, and 9 times out of 10 you will see somebody in that chat because of that. And
Mhm.
it's like such an addictive thing because like how many people like we know who as well who have also started streaming and started speedrunning like as a result.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like Sir T, I think he was kind of in a similar situation to me where he ended up finding Beats, he found Lloyd,
Mm-hmm.
he found people like that he was just jumping in there and being like, "Oh, this is cool."
Yeah.
And then I think T even like reached out to Beats at one point to be like, "Hey, how do I get better at this?" and things like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of us that just kind of ended up in those streams, got really interested and engaged with those communities, and going to like the Twitch versus TikTok streaming thing. I didn't have enough. I didn't meet the requirements to stream on TikTok when I
Mm-hmm.
first got interested in speedrunning myself. I so the only choice I had was Twitch. I mean, there's like YouTube streaming and there's Kick and things like
Yeah.
that, but Twitch is kind of the spot that I was like, okay, if I'm gonna stream, I'm gonna stream from there. So I got the Twitch streaming up and going. Um, just try to be like, hey, I'm gonna start streaming. If anybody wants to like stop in, feel free to. Um, and so it kind of just started from there. That was like November of last year that I started doing my speed runs. I'm having trouble remembering if I actually did many streams at that time.
Hmm.
I just didn't. I was just kind of like figuring things out. Didn't think my computer would be able to handle it, all that. Um, as you know, my old computer was a little bit of a, I won't say dinosaur, but realistically, it was a dinosaur, you know.
Yeah, like
So,
not quite Windows 98 caliber, but like
oh
yeah,
yeah,
and but also not like too capable for like a solid stream sometimes. But you know what? I
yeah,
mean, like it's the sort of way it goes. Like we all do start somewhere, and like I think as well, it's kind of interesting. I think especially starting out on Twitch, on your PC, it is a little bit of like a reality check in some ways, because then you realize
mhm,
how much really actually goes into it and stuff, like and then there's like your management in terms of Discord and stuff like that, managing your schedules, managing like everything else in between. And
mhm,
like it's sort of like, it's not to say not like anybody can do it, but like it does like take a lot, like and then obviously
mhm.
when you start on Twitch as well, like I think it's kind of like it's a different type of growth, because like with Twitch, I don't really feel like you get as many people just randomly scrolling through Twitch as you would through TikTok. You might get more people who stay through Twitch, but then with TikTok as well, it's so easy to get that kind of exposure, because yourself, now that you are on TikTok, how many
Mhm.
people you just see, oh, such and such joined, so that like there could have been cumulatively over the course of a stream 1,000 different people who've joined. Whereas on
Oh
Twitch,
yeah.
you could sit with three people for however many hours. Like it's it is yeah, but it's actually funny how we both ended up on TikTok. Like when we had our 120 star race a few months ago,
Mhm.
like it was literally I think it was JJ. She was in the chat when we were racing, and she said something about us streaming on TikTok. And then the next day, that's when I checked, and it came up being like, "Oh yes, if you just prove
Yeah.
that you're a creator on another platform, then apply and we'll give you access." And I was like, "Oh fuck yeah!" So that and then I think it was more or less the same for yourself as well, wasn't it? But it was like
Mhm.
maybe a couple of weeks after.
Yeah, it was just a little bit after, because when I first checked, I didn't have the availability to like
Mm-hmm.
request the live access. But one day I just decided to pop in there and take a look. And I think it was right after I hit like I was at like 525
Mm-hmm.
followers or something like that. And that's when like the other like live application stuff popped up, and I got it pretty much immediately. So I don't know what rules and things they changed, but I'm happy I didn't have to get to the 1,000 follower mark, because like it just takes forever.
Yeah, like
I think I've gotten more followers since I've been able to go live than I had before I started.
yeah, like especially when you're solely relying on content, on TikTok, like
Mhm.
it's so hard, because like I'm not going to say TikTok doesn't want people to grow, but it's so difficult, because the algorithm is ever changing, and then obviously there's all this like hidden criteria of like what you can and can't
Mhm.
post, what's going to get pushed in. And nine times out of 10, it's always fucking brain rot as well, like just all this
Oh yeah.
silly shit that like they want to force down people's throats and stuff. But see, on that though, like in terms of a streaming platform, which do you prefer to stream? I know you stream to both, but like which do you sort of
Mhm.
like prefer out of the two? Because obviously, yes, you started on Twitch, but then on the
Mhm.
same time, your community was all very much like TikTok driven. It was how you find how you met
Mhm.
everybody, etc. So there's like that kind of like unique blend of two. But which one would you say you prefer streaming to out of both of them?
Um, as a streamer, I really like using Twitch more. There's a lot more that I can do in ways for me to engage with my community, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, through Twitch. I also there's like I feel like there's less of a restriction on what I can do and what I like. I'm not saying anything outrageous, but like what I can say
Yeah,
sometimes
of
is
course.
limited. So there is that element of it. Um, that said, as if I'm somebody who wants to grow my brand, grow my stream, grow the community, TikTok is very much the place for that. So, and it's the place where again I met a lot of people, and that's what I was using for a long time. So I totally get like the user friendliness of watching a stream on your phone on TikTok. Like it is the Twitch app is annoying as a viewer. But the TikTok app, like it fills up the whole screen. It just is, it seems more like more geared towards the viewer. And
Yeah.
so I totally get why people like using it. People are used to doing gifs and things on there. So it's I like streaming to Twitch a lot, but TikTok is definitely a place that I will continue to be streaming when I have enough social battery for it.
Yeah, that's it. Because like, I definitely think TikTok can be like very, very fast paced at times.
Hmm.
Because like the viewership on TikTok, it's like incredibly like volatile. At one point
Hmm.
you could have 100 people, the next moment you could have like 10 people, but then you could have so many people chatting, and obviously it just is. It's incredibly dependent. Like a lot of things like come into it, like things like time of day and all that, and who's about really. But yeah, what I like about it is the fact that there's like the two different platforms, but they both obviously the same thing. It's the same thing in terms of like you are streaming the same content, but both of them have a lot of different things to offer, and I think it's incredibly interesting. And I do like kind of going
Hmm.
between. If I see somebody who's dual streaming, like I like to go between and see the differences in terms of like setup and things like that. And no,
Hmm.
but it's yeah, it's 100%. It's so interesting. Like honestly,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So
And
actually,
TikTok Live Studio makes it a lot easier to like
mm,
just pull in different assets and make the stream look pretty.
oh,
Whereas I feel like I've had to do a lot more like manual work with OBS. So that
yeah,
is a nice thing. But at the end of the day, the amount of flexibility I have with Twitch and streaming there tends to
yeah.
make it feel a little bit easier for me.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Like, I think like the censorship on TikTok is like a little bit over the top at times. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, I have a hard time filtering myself at the best of times. So you can imagine how difficult it is on TikTok. Now, I think I've kind of gotten to grips with it, but it still slips out, and it's just kind of then the problem is then you get inside your own head with it, and you kind of think, okay, I've let one f bomb slip here, is that gonna have like a snowball effect or something like that? Like, and I think it's something
Yeah,
that definitely takes like a little bit of time to get used to and stuff. But I mean, yeah, I mean, they definitely both have like their own pros and cons for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you, Craig, about your username. Like, I think your username is like quite unique. So like, what was the inspiration behind that, if any, or is it just something you came up randomly on the fly with?
Yeah, so we'll go back to my high school days. I had a computer that wasn't the strongest, so the extent of games that I could play were ones that weren't super like graphically demanding. So that led me to play RuneScape a whole lot.
Oh, okay.
When I was playing RuneScape, I like to like step away from my main accounts every now and then, just start up a new one and do like specific skills, training, stuff like that. But I just needed another name to give to one of the characters that I made. I sat there for probably 15 minutes just like thinking through like I'm gonna name this guy. I think I already used one of the other names I liked, which was Mega Hammer. I used that like everywhere for a long time.
Quite a good one.
But I kept finding places where I had to like add a one to the end or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to find something that can be like its own thing. It's unique. I can use all the regular letters in it. Um, and so what the image that came to mind was like you're getting into a car with like a zombie or something, and somebody calls shotgun, and somebody says dead guy drives. That's that's the extent of it. It's super silly, but that's just the story and the visual that went through my head at the
No, but
time,
like that's
and the rest is history.
but no, that's good though. The fact that there's actually like a story behind that, because like, I mean, you'll know yourself coming up with a username at the best of times. It's hard because
Mm.
when you do it like for the sake of like streaming, want to get into that things, you kind of want it to be memorable and for it to like be eye catching.
Hmm.
So I think that is that, and the fact that there's a story behind that, like that's actually that's so interesting because how many times, like I mean, look, it'll be funny. Look at my username in comparison. Like it's so unimaginative. Like it's just my name, the whole sort of premise of what I do, and then my year of birth. Like it's so kind of
Hmm.
mundane, but like it doesn't fuck around really. Like, but it's not memorable,
Oh
But
yeah.
no, that's
I mean, and I mean with yours too, like, and I've thought about this too as I started streaming, because I didn't think about this like being something that would happen where I would have different names on different platforms. So like if you look
mm-hmm,
down below, everybody, you see I have Dead Guy Drives on Twitch, but below that it's CraigyBoi on TikTok. When I made my TikTok account, I used my like Dead Guy Drives name as like the username. But then since I knew people on TikTok that I was gonna be, like, sending TikToks to and stuff, I wanted my name to have some of my, like, actual, like, first name in it so that people would know who was sending them
mm-hmm,
something. And so I did Craigie Boy just out of a like, it's a silly, fun version of my name. And now people call me no, I've never in my life before had people regularly call me Craigie, but now there's an entire community that knows me as Craigie. So it's kinda cool it's my name, but it's like its own, like, version and its own
mm-hmm.
little, like, world where I get called Craigie in this one place. And dead guy is what I get called if I'm in somebody else's Twitch stream that doesn't, like, know me very well
Yeah.
or doesn't know me yet, they'll call me dead guy, and I'm cool with that too. But there's like the dual like the dual names and like branding thing there that I didn't think about um, when I got into streaming on both and having like crossover of audience and everything. But it's not that big of a deal for me. I think most people know the Dead Guy Drives is me that know me already, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's another thing as well that like, I was gonna mention was the fact that on TikTok it is Craigie Boy and like but it's TikTok's a weird one for that because like, obviously everyone has their username on TikTok, but then it's like, like you say as well, your username on TikTok is Dead Guy Drives, but your name and like both of them are searchable. So if I was to search up like both Craigie Boy and Dead Guy Drive, both will come up with your profile. So it's like, and that's just
Mm.
like what's interesting is now that people know that's what how people know you as Craigie. Like, and I think it's even funnier the fact that like, nobody to this point had ever called you Craigie, but that's just like but I think it's like how people know you, as well. And so one of them things is like,
Mhm.
once you put it out on the internet, it's there forever. Like, like the
Oh,
digital
yeah.
footprint is like so strong, especially with that. But like, it's nice though, the fact that, it's, that's how people know you, and like, and obviously who you are, this is how they know you. They're like, oh yeah, you see that guy drives, oh, there's Craigie there, it's just kind of
Yeah.
like, it's like a very nice kind of nickname in that sense. Like, no, I like that. Like it's, but yeah, I think I personally think it's good to have like those types of like the difference, especially across because like say just to reiterate as well, you are Dead Guy Drives for both, but I think it's good because then it's a sort of way like regardless of what username it is, people are gonna know it's you.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I think there's a difference, between some of the platforms, like, namely, like, a Twitch to TikTok comparison. Twitch is very, like when I think of, like, the old school streaming, like, video game communities, online communities, the Dead Guy Drives name fits a little bit more into that kind of a footprint. I
Yeah.
think I think TikTok falls a little bit more into, like, a more generalized audience, a more, like, I don't wanna say casual because if you're watching speedrunning, you're not casual at all. But it's less ingrained into that, like, old school, like, gaming,
Yeah.
streaming, online forum type of community, and I think that Craigie Boy name is a bit more approachable in that regard.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And one more thing about this I need to ask you as well is so on Twitch it's DED, but on TikTok it's
Hmm.
DEAD. Was the full dead unavailable on Twitch, or is there like a
The
specific?
max the max character size is 12.
Ah,
That this is 12 characters.
fuck. How frustrating it
So,
must that be? I mean, I do like the fact that it's DED. I think that's a little bit more
mhm.
standout, but what a silly thing for that,
Oh
like
yeah.
just literally just one character off, like because
Oh yeah.
that's so limiting.
Oh yeah. And everywhere else that I use the Dead Guy Drives name, it's the full DEAD. So I was at the time when I think when I made my Twitch account forever ago, I didn't really care because I didn't necessarily plan on streaming at the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah.
One of those things where it's like, I mean, I'm glad that I was able to get the name at the time. So I have the full like name as close as possible. Just doesn't have the A in it. Everything else, I have the DEAD on though.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Because I just literally sat there counting like how many characters in mine. It just happened to be 12. So that was lucky. Good thing
Yeah,
Amandi's
I
with
know,
a
that's what I
Y
was
and not
thinking
IE.
too. Yeah. I go through and count now sometimes to see how long people's names are, to see if they had to, like, cut something off to make it
Yeah,
fit.
or just to
And I've gone
see.
back and checked it. Yeah, I've gone back and checked in the meantime to see if they've updated that, and I think it's still a 12 character limit.
Yeah,
Uh, I did just see somebody in the comments say
yeah.
theirs
Someone
is
in chat there.
13, so
Yeah, they must have capped it at one point. To be honest, like
Mhm.
that's a shame. It's so limiting, but it is what it is. But no, I think if anything, it makes it a little bit more standout. Um,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah. So let's just step away from streaming content, all that, just for a minute. So I want to know about your life outside of streaming. So like you've got like let's just say you've a day off. You free reign to do whatever you want. You're away from your computer. What does a day in the life of CraigyBoi look like? In terms of your hobbies, interests.
Mhm.
Just things that you would get up to that most people really wouldn't know about.
Yeah, I guess, like, thinking about it as from, like, a day perspective, usually what I try to do if I'm on my routine is get up in the morning and go for a run. Running is kind of my like exercise of choice, just because it's very like low friction to get yourself in some shoes and clothes and get out the
Mm-hmm.
door going. So that's something that I kind of comes in like waves that I'll like be super into my running and everything, and then I'll step back for like a month or two and do it much less. But that's kind of one of the things that I do. Um, that's one of the things that I do the most regularly, is getting out and running. I've done a marathon. I've got a marathon coming up at the end of this year, so busy time for me now.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I
but
remember
yeah,
you posted your schedule, your training schedule for the marathon. Like it looks intense. Like but you know what?
yeah,
I think it's certain things like that. Like in terms of exercise, it's an addictive process. Like I mean,
mhm.
like the first marathon you did, that was the first marathon you'd ever done, wasn't it? It wasn't just like the first like of this year or.
Yeah. The first marathon I did was in 2022.
Oh, okay.
I actually it was let me think about this. Yeah, June of 2022. We did the marathon on a Saturday, my wife and I both did, which, I mean, if we get into that more, my wife is the one who is super into running and basically was like, "Please run so I can run with you sometime." So that's kinda how that happened. But we both did our first marathon together. Um, it was up in, Minnesota here in the US. We did that one weekend, and then the following weekend, we moved from Atlanta to, Denver, Colorado.
Mm.
So we were, like, in recovery mode with our bodies being, like, destroyed from this marathon, and we gotta load up a moving truck and drive
Oh shit.
22 hours across the country. So that was a whole mess, but that was when I did my first one. I've done other, like, 5K, 10K, half marathon distance stuff in the meantime. But my first marathon since my first one is going to be in December of this year.
Ah, brilliant, brilliant. So I thought you had a marathon like this year, or was that just a was that a 10K, or
There was
or
a
was it
there
half?
was a
Was it?
half marathon I was
Ah,
supposed to do. My wife had signed up for, and so I did as well. And I ended up not being like prepared enough physically for it. And on top of that, my now mother-in-law had come out because it was like Mother's Day weekend,
mm-hmm.
the when we were doing it, and she wanted to do the 10K because there was no way she's going to be able to do the half marathon because similarly to me, she wasn't ready for it. So we went and ran the 10K together. I ended up doing a 10K the following weekend as well as part of a marathon relay that we did
Ah,
here
yes.
in Denver. There's like it was like 5 people on a team, and we each took a separate leg of the marathon course.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that, and I did like a 6.5 mile route, so it's a little over a 10K. But it was, 2 back-to-back 10Ks. And then I was like, I'm gonna take a break until this wedding stuff is over because it's too much to deal with at once.
Yeah, that's it. And I think as well, the last thing you'd have been wanting would do was just like your calves absolutely like killing you as you're walking about in your
Yeah.
wedding day and just be like, no, fuck, I need to sit down here. Like,
Yeah, and I know I was gonna be walking around in Paris a whole bunch
well,
too. I
yeah,
didn't wanna, like,
absolutely.
be in rough shape, so
For sure. So in terms of then, like, you're running. I know obviously, you just said, you're gearing up for a marathon. Do you have like a
mhm.
specific time goal in mind? And even for like other distances that you run as well, like, or is it just getting it done, or do you have like these specific goals?
So, when I did my first marathon, I came in, like I wanted to be, like, under the 5.5 hour mark, and I did it in, like, 5 hours and 29 minutes or
Shit.
something. Like, I remember the 5.5 hour pacer was in front of me when I got down to, like, the final stretch, and I just, like, made sure to book it past her to, like, beat her, get under the 5.5 hour mark. But after that one, I was like, I will never do a marathon again unless I can do it under 5 hours,
Hmm.
because going for 5 hours plus, it's rough. It
For
is a rough
sure.
thing to do. So my goal is to be under 5 hours this time. I think I can make that happen. I'm gonna honestly try to train for closer to, like, the 4.5, 4 hours and 40 minutes time,
Yeah.
and hope that I, like, my performance, even if it falters a little bit, I can still hit under 5 hours, but we'll see. I don't because of, like, all of the stuff that happened leading up to when training needed to start, I might I might be playing a little bit of catch up as I get into training, but, like, I did my long run today, and it felt pretty good, so
That's good.
I think that I'll be okay. It's gonna be a matter of for marathons is building up your mileage slowly over time,
Yeah.
and I think I'm gonna be able to make that happen leading up to this marathon.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like it is, um, like anything with that, like a lot of it is to do with like consistency and just,
Mhm,
sort of making sure you're sort of putting yourself in the right position to achieve this. Like, and that's,
mhm,
knowing, listening to your body as well, essentially. That's like a huge part of it. And I think as
mhm.
well, the fact that, you've done one before and, since then you've gotten like into running as well. It's like kind of you obviously like know sort of what it entails like a lot more in
Mhm,
terms of like the sort of fitness side of it, the conditioning and all things in between, that's
mhm,
and I think that's something that like a lot of people don't really realize until they get that kind of like reality shock in a way where it's just like,
mhm.
so they get up, it's like, oh yeah, I can run this 5K, and then like within about 2 minutes they're blowing out of their arse. Like,
Oh, yeah.
definitely not
Oh,
speaking
yeah,
from
that's
experience, by the way.
like, in my first marathon, I came out the gate a little bit fast, which always happens, and I slowed myself down some, and I kinda felt myself slowly getting a little bit quicker as we were getting through the first half of the race, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this pace isn't feeling too bad, like, I'm doing pretty well." We got to the half marathon mark, and I was like, the halfway point, and I was
Hmm.
like, "Oh, I took that first half too fast. This is gonna be interesting." And so I got to the point where I think when I was at mile 15, they had little like aid stations every 2 miles for
Hmm.
the first 20 miles, I think. And so I was like, okay, I just have to make it to each aid station. If I can do that, I will be in good shape. I will be able to make it through this whole thing. So got to the 15-mile one, got to the 17, and after when I got to the 17, I was like, okay, I'm really feeling this now. Get up to like I think at the 19 mark, they started going every mile. And from there, it was like, I hope I can make it to every aid station. And luckily, there was a very, very nice lady at the 20 or 21-mile mark that had ibuprofen. And that's something I hadn't thought of. I
Mm.
went over there and I was like, please give me 3 ibuprofen. So I took that, I run for another mile, and after we hit mile 22, all of a sudden, like, my whole body was like, "I don't hurt anymore," and I was like, "Yes, thank God," and I'd gotten up to this top of the top of this hill, and the most of the rest of the way was, like, going downhill, so I got to just, like, coast through for the last, like, 4 or
Mm.
5 miles, and then, of course, you have, like, this flat little area to get through right at the end, and it was a drag because you kinda run around. The finish line is right there, but you have to go run that direction first and
Oh,
come
I
do a
see.
big loop, so
Yes.
it was teasing us, but yeah, that was the next marathon I'm doing is on a course that a lot of people go to qualify for the Boston Marathon, which
Mm.
is a big deal. So there's gonna be a lot of people who are there for a fast course, a course that people like to go to, everything. So I think that I'm gonna be in good hands. I'm not gonna qualify for Boston, but
You
I'll get
never
to
know.
watch some people do it.
Never know. You know, you could
If I if I run a 250 marathon this year, I'm gonna get tested for PEDs probably.
You know what? Stranger things have happened, man. Stranger things have happened. We, you know, we could. You never know. You never know. I mean, all this training that you're doing for it, you could surprise yourself for sure. You know.
We'll see. I think it's more likely to say I'll get like a 140 something in 120 star than it is for me to qualify for Boston this year.
You know what? I mean, it'd be an interesting sort of. That would be an interesting thing to see which comes first. You know, two different like
We will
marathons of
see.
their in their own right. Really, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, that's amazing, man. Honestly, like with the all the running and stuff, and like what sort of other things would you sort of like be into outside of streaming, or would like running be the kind of main thing? Obviously, because I mean, with your
Mhm.
own schedule, like, you do this and work full time and stuff like so. Like that, the kind of like does yourself. It does
Mhm.
kind of fill up like a lot of it, like a lot of time. It doesn't really give too much time for most things, but let's say you get a chance to squeeze in something else. What would you be looking at?
Yeah, so of course I've got like get the running in the morning. I'll do my work day. After that, my dog Ellie and I will go for a walk in the afternoon. I get back from that. I mean, I spend time watching a lot of people stream. So that is something that I've spent a lot of time in the past, several months,
Hmm.
is just watching other people do their streams. And I guess if we want to even like step away from that some, I like playing just other video games, like stuff that I don't necessarily stream.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who he's KNJ. If any of you are in my Twitch streams, he and I play co-op games pretty regularly. We'll jump on and play something together. Neither of us stream it or anything. We just kinda hang out and,
Yeah.
like, we were college roommates, so it's
Oh,
nice to,
nice.
like, sit and catch up. Yeah, catch up with him and play something. Um, and then I haven't done a lot of, like, a ton of other solo games, but, I'm trying to just play through some other stuff that I just never
Hmm.
knew about before
Yeah.
or stuff that I really just wanted to that catches my eye. Like, for example, that new there's a new college football video game that just came out.
Oh,
I
okay.
really wanna play that some. And then I wanna do a playthrough of Final Fantasy VI because I've been watching a lot of randomizer playthrough for that.
Oh, nice.
Maybe at some point I'll play the randomizer for it, but it's tough. But that's some cool stuff I've been
Mm.
watching and trying to play through. Like Link to the Past randomizer I want to get into.
Yeah, I've seen a
So
few of them
just all
before. They're
sorts of
pretty
stuff like
cool.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's nice as well because like I mean, obviously, putting all the time into streaming and like and everything surrounding that, like I mean, how nice is it to just sit and just play a game like just for you, just
Mhm.
literally even like you say, you play the co-op games, with your friend and stuff, and like I very very similar sort of like dichotomy myself, like my friend the mighty Ryan, him and I do that. We just play like a lot of shit together and just we same
Mhm.
idea as well. We both like lived together in university as well, and it was it's nice, it's nice just kind of having just like that time because like I mean, not to say that streaming can ever really feel like work, but like, you get to the point you're just kind of like, you know what? I just want to play something different, something that I care about, and that's something I don't give a
Mhm.
shit what anyone else thinks about. I just want to play this for myself, just to kind of
Yeah.
unwind. It's nice, and then like you say, watching streams and stuff. Like once you get into that world, it does become like a sort of like it becomes part of routine almost, like like
That's exactly the word I was about to use, was routine.
yeah, like it's but you know what? Wouldn't change anything about it, man. Would not change anything about it for sure. Like it's just one of them
Oh
things
yeah.
you get stuck into, and it's like like I mean, yourself, the people, like all the people that you meet out of it, like it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's been the big thing for me too, is I had thought about speedrunning before and, barring any technical difficulties I had getting streaming
Hmm.
to work for me in the past, um, I didn't want to sit in the speedrun in a room by myself.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
part of why I started streaming regularly, was because I wanted to at least open basically have an open door and be like, "Hey, people come in, watch me stream and do speedrunning, chat with me, chat with other
Hmm.
people who are into it." That's how all these, like, communities, like, form and build.
Oh yeah,
It's really cool. But
100%.
yeah, it truly is like it's kind of a showing up and being there for and with your friends that you've made,
Yeah,
and, it's nice to, it is nice every now and then, like, as someone who streams, to, like, step away and do a game where you're not on stream, simply because there is like a social aspect to it where, like, I'm an introverted person, so I like to have some, like, recharge, like, on my own
yeah,
time,
for sure.
and playing a game for the longest time was, like, my way to just kinda, like, sit and do my own thing, have my introverted time.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of evolved to be like I'm playing video games, like, around other people and having some social aspect to it, which feels more comfortable to me generally, but it's 2 very different things, and I think they both have their place.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like absolutely. Like do you know what, that actually very very neatly brings brings us on to the next question. So like, you know, because sometimes there could be like an issue with streamers, like especially once they're like established in like a certain niche, we'll say, like like specifically with Mario 64, like that's actually quite a
Mhm.
would probably be the most relevant one. Like the sort of dilemma that people can be faced with is, do they stick with the one thing that got them their original kind of following, or do they branch out, do a little bit more variety? Now, of course, it's
Mm.
very very much an independent thing, but like obviously people are faced with that. So, in terms of yourself, long term, what is your plan with streaming? Like, is it solely Mario 64, or is there sort of the chance of like sort of branching out into more kind of, well, just different things that you might see and be like, okay, I fancy doing this, or that are unrelated to Mario.
I think that Super Mario 64 and, like, variation, like, ROM hacks, all that type of stuff, I will probably do that for the foreseeable future. I don't see that that will go away at all.
Hmm.
The thing that might happen is I might start pulling in some of the other games, especially if I start doing these other randomizers where within those communities, they like to stream and have
Yeah,
people in there on those streams, and that's part of how they, like, just verify everything is, like, you're not cheating and things like that.
yeah,
I would stream in those circumstances, for sure. But I also think it's just it'd be a cool way to bring more people into those communities too. Like with like I mentioned, Link to the Past. Like I know a lot of people like Legend of Zelda. I don't know how many people have played Link to the Past. I don't know how many people have played the randomizer for it, but I'm interested in playing that, and I think it'd be cool to just expose more people to other games. I'm not too worried about like having a specific audience or
Yeah.
losing the audience that I have, because I do think that if people if people were only watching me play Super Mario 64 because I'm playing that specific game, then they wouldn't show up stream after stream after
Hmm.
stream.
Yeah, for sure.
I I think they're showing up because there's the people around them in the stream. There's myself as a streamer that's helping create a certain environment that they like. And I mean, I think people come and they'll watch a good streamer play whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And I yeah, I think that's where I'll leave that one. Yeah.
No, that's, you know what, that it's interesting you say exactly that, because for everyone I've interviewed in this podcast have more or less said the exact same thing, and it's like, and I think that's an absolutely beautiful thing, especially with like the communities that kind of grow. Like, and with everybody on TikTok and Twitch, like sort of in this circle who does play Mario 64, there is at least like some minor overlap in all the different communities. Like, whether it
Mhm.
be everybody in the mutual communities has heard of most of these runners, or being in parts of discords, knowing the people within it. It's just, it's like I think it's such an amazing thing, and you are 100% right that people will just stay for the person streaming. Like, it shouldn't matter exactly what they're doing, but like I think like the plan that you kind of set out there, I think that's it's good, and it's actually really smart, because it like keeps everything like relevant to it. Because obviously if you're doing like Link to the Past and things like that, that's still Nintendo. It's still kind of very much on
Mhm.
brand with what you're currently doing. And like, and the fact that you've like thought about it and pretty much exactly what it is you're going to be doing, that's I think that's sort of something that like most people don't get. Because like, I mean, like everybody I've even spoke to just in a normal way, like they get to the point, like unless they're like, the kind of like staunch speedrunners kind of thing,
Mhm.
like I'm not going to name names, of course, but you'll know who I'm talking about when I say that. But like, um, you know, they always know what they're going to do every day, and it's the same thing, which is like totally fine. That's just what they, because that's what
Mhm.
some people do. But then like a lot of people I know, it's like kind of, what am I going to stream tomorrow? What am I going to do? I'm kind of a bit sick of this. I want to do something different, but I don't know what. And then I think what happens with some people when it comes to that is like people can get inside their own heads a bit, and I think that's why they end up niching themselves into this one little category, because
Mhm.
it might not necessarily be what they want to do, but they want to do something different. But then they're worried, are people going to stay here, or are people not really going to give a
Mhm.
shit, and kind of thing, like
Mhm.
um so the fact that you have the fact that you sort of know yourselves as like, well, this is what I'm doing, this is, I might be a streamer, but it's entirely by your choice,
Mhm.
because you're not, as you said, you're not worried about losing the audience you have, because you know that they're going to be there because they've been there right from day one, which is
Mhm.
yeah, man, that's that's absolutely incredible. Oh, sorry, Craigie, you just muted a bit there.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, we got you back.
Perfect, perfect. I I what was I saying? I am not I'm not looking at it from a perspective of like I have to keep like a specific audience here. Mm, I'm not sitting here thinking about like um let's reframe this. I don't care from a like a financial perspective
Hmm.
what monetary gain I get from streaming.
Yeah.
I don't care about that at all. If people decide to tip or sub or whatever it may be, I highly appreciate it, and that's them showing the support to me. And I've said many, many times, I put that money back into the stream, whether that's upgrading equipment, whether that's, paying off something that I've, like this computer that I got. I'm trying
Hmm.
to put some things towards that because that computer is something that I needed to be able to make these streams
Yeah.
look good and cooperate and everything. So that's kind of where that goes. So I'm not worried about losing an audience because it's going to like financially impact me. And I think there are some people who are like, oh, the only way I can get big and make a bunch of money off of streaming is if I do the same like popular thing over and over and over again, even though I don't like it.
Yeah.
So I think that helps kind of jumping into this from the perspective of I'm doing this because I'm having fun with it. I'm doing this because people like to hang out with me and be here for these streams. So that's how I've approached it. And I like again, I don't mind if I stream something and I only get like 5 viewers one day. I know if I pull up Super Mario 64 again, it's gonna jump up. More random people will stop in to watch that just because it's a popular game. Um, I'd rather enjoy myself and just get to spend time with people than worry too much about like, oh, am I playing the right game? Am I focusing towards like a mass appeal for an audience over anything
Yeah.
else?
No, do you know what? And that's an absolutely phenomenal mindset to have about it. Like, it's the sort of like, because there are so many people who do want to turn this sort of thing into like their full-time job, because I
Mm.
mean, fucking hell, it'd be a dream job for a lot of people, I
Yeah,
mean, it would be
right,
fucking
right.
amazing. But like, in the same vein, like, sometimes people can kind of get like a little bit too absorbed into that. Like, the
Mm,
people, there are some people we know who like, and you can get them who try a little bit too hard, for example, like, when they don't get the viewership, they'll be in their Discord being like, where the hell is everybody, this, that, and the other, where's my
mhm,
support, you know what I mean? Oh my God, you didn't send me
mhm,
your daily heart me kind of thing. It's like,
mhm,
and that is essentially, when people do that, they're like a victim of their own doing, like
mhm,
if they their downfalls only really because of them,
mhm.
and
Makes it feel like a chore. It makes it feel like a chore for the audience to show up.
yeah, exactly. And like, there's so many people like I have stopped watching because you just see what their real motives are. Now, of course, that's not to say, the financial sort of gain, the monetary gain, and all, like, that can be nice. But as you say, like, it goes back in. Like, I mean,
Mhm,
literally, pretty much everything I've ever made in the last 12 months from Twitch and everything has just gone back into everything I've done. Like, it's what, helped me get this PC, and like, no, I'm so incredibly grateful for that. Like, but at the end of the day, like, people like yourself, myself, and a lot of people we know in who do this, like, we all work full time. We all have our
mhm,
careers, which we have had for a lot longer than we've been streaming. And
mhm.
um, this is just like, this is just a fucking great hobby to have.
Right.
And like, I think we're in the same boat when we say, like, look at all the people that we've met, and it's just bringing communities together. And this is why I like doing things like this, because, like, it's nice just to get to know people a little bit more. And then, we like, even like right now, so we're live on Twitch, we have like, people from both of our communities who are in watching now. And I think that's incredible. I think that is like, I think it's great. It's a great way to like bring people together, all based on like a common interest, and just to get to know a little bit more about the people that we're spending all this time watching.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's just like constantly just growing relationships with people, and you never know where that can lead as well, because, like, it gets to the point where a lot of people a lot of people kind of like break off into like their own sort of like, smaller groups of like friendships with people who they get on with like a little bit better, and God knows what it leads to, like
Mhm.
people like meeting up in like real life and stuff. And I think it's an incredible thing. I
Oh
think it
yeah.
is just amazing. So yeah, honestly, like, I think the mindset you've got, brilliant, man, brilliant. Because like, it's just, at the end of the day, this is just something you've decided you wanted to do, and obviously, thank God, it has gone as well as it has, and it will only continue. 100%. It's only going to continue to get better, which is, I'm so excited for you. Um, but the fact that it's a sort of thing where, like, say that wasn't to be the case, it's just like, oh well, okay, I still have,
Mhm.
I still have, like, a full-time career. I still have a roof over my head, and everything
Mhm.
like that, all the important things, and you still have, like, your wife, of course, and that's what more could you need in life?
Exactly. Yeah. This is the streaming, the playing games. It's all a hobby. If I was trying to make a living doing this, starting from like square one, it's not something you can do unless you're like doing some back deals or something where you're getting some like crazy money somehow. But like it's not something you can't get into it expecting it to be the thing that like brings you in money.
Oh yeah.
That has to be kind of a happy accident, but, I mean, there's work that goes into making that happen,
Oh yeah, for
but
sure.
you can't 99% of people can't expect it to be something that supports them, sustains them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, when you look at the amount of people, like, collectively, who probably stream, right? In terms of the ones who make it their living, it's a very, very small percentage, surely.
Mhm,
And, like, I think it's a sort of thing. It's like, to go back to, like, what I sort of mentioned at the very start of this was like, you know, it's like a sort of a bit of a reality check, and to say, it's like, oh
mhm,
shit, there is a lot more work that goes into this than I actually thought. And, like, you know, and so for some people who go in with that kind of, like, mentality where they're doing it solely for money, it's kind of like, well, it's a sort of, it's like disheartening for them. And then, maybe it goes
mhm,
well at first because people that they know are excited for them, or it's like someone's discovered someone new and it's nice. They're like one of the OGs. Like, it's, there's always that initial boost that people get. But then
mhm.
when that stops, it's like, kind of, all right, so, well, what's the point in doing this? It's like, well, we'll do it because you fucking enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, if a lot of people, I think, when they approach it more from that, like, "I'm starting a business" mindset,
Hmm.
they have the failure of, if not enough people are showing up, they think that people don't wanna be there or,
Yeah.
you know, something along those lines. So there's, like, the social side of it, but then you also throw in the monetary side of it, and it can be extremely, as you said, disheartening for people to think that they are, like, a failure or that they aren't somebody that people want to, like, hang out with. I mean, people have lots of stuff going on. They can't catch every
Yeah.
stream. They can't send like gifts or subs or whatever every single stream. So it's not a healthy mindset to go in thinking that it's going to be something that it's not going to be. You got to go in with to it like I am going to be playing a game. I'm going to be hanging out with my community. I'm going to just spend time with them. What comes from that comes.
Yeah.
You can't put too much weight on it.
Oh, 100% as well, because, like, I completely feel that, because, like, I mean, it's very, very rare that I even get to catch one of your streams, just because of the time difference and work and stuff like
Mhm,
that. It's just unfortunately one of those things. And I think there's always going to be people in that position as well. But obviously when I can, I do. And, but, like, it's
mhm,
just one of them things. It's like, kind of, we're both a part of each other's communities, and it's just the point the effort is there when we can. But, like, we both, like you say, just echo what you said, like, everyone has their own shit going on, everybody has their own
mhm.
stuff, and it's kind of like, well, but that regardless, because of that, the people are still going to make the effort, like, where they can, and, like, that's sort of like, it's appreciated regardless.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, just one final question for you, man.
Okay.
So all over the time you've been streaming, what would you say the most important lesson that you've learned, in terms of your online presence, your growth with streaming, and even from, like, a personal development, like, point of view, like, things that you might have learned about
Mhm.
yourself? What would you say the most important lesson out of everything, would you say you've learned?
I would say the being consistent. I think that that affects both the streaming side of things and, like, the speedrunning side of things too. Um, having when you're talking to community, giving them, like, consistent times you can be like, "Hey, these days are when I'm gonna be there. This is what I'm gonna do." Letting them know and, like, being kind of, like, being the stable like foundation of
Mm-hmm.
things
Yeah.
around which people can like plug into their schedule goes a long way to getting people to come by regularly. I thought it was really cool. We got to a point where people would realize it was Wednesday. They'd
Mm-hmm.
be like, "Yay, Craig's streaming today!" Like that was really cool for me to see. Was when people realize it was Wednesday and be like, "Oh my gosh, like we're gonna be streaming later, right?" And I'm like, "Yep, I'll be on
Amazing.
as always." So that's a very small example of what I think helps people out if you are um, going to be a creator, if you're going to be streaming, have consistent timings, be consistent with what you like. If you tell people you're going to do something, do it. Um, Now, barring emergencies, of course, all that. But and then like if you're going to do speed running, um, doing like having consistent practice, making your streams be places where you are going in and being productive with it. Um, all of those things boil down to, I think, the concept of consistency. That's the thing that I would probably tell to anybody is just make people know, let people know when to expect you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely solid advice there, man. Like, yeah, like I think consistency, having that's the reason why we have like schedules and stuff. So, like you say, people know they can fit it into their schedules, and like the fact that like people have said, "Oh my god, it's Wednesday, Craigie's streaming." Like, how good does that feel? That like when
Hmm.
people know that this is when you're coming back, and it's kind of like that's amazing. That's actually because it's the sort of thing like you never know what kind of is going on in like anybody's life at any given time, and
Hmm.
that little thing to look forward to could really literally be a massive massive thing for them. Like
Oh yeah.
I think that's just wonderful. That is just incredible thing. Yeah, consistency I think is very 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 important. Like like I say, like you say, just give some people something to look forward to, and it's a nice way to kind of switch off from the world. The world can be a shitty place at times. It's a nice
Hmm.
place. It's a nice time to just switch off, hang with your community, hang with your friends, and just enjoy it. Like I think that's that's
Oh yeah.
that's yeah, that's incredible, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and like even in my streams right now, like this is something I notice more in especially some of the more successful streamers, like one that's super popular and you've probably seen like TikTok videos of Queso before.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Um
Yeah.
yeah, so if you ever sit and watch one of his streams, he gets on, he goes through his Discord and looks at stuff like on the first part of stream. He'll like watch videos and stuff, and he'll go play like Agario. And he'll be like, "Do you guys want to see a horror game or do you want to see this other game?" And so like when I go in there, I know exactly what he's going to be doing. There's some other people, my friend Fred, that I watch play like the Link to the Past and the
Mm-hmm.
like Final Fantasy stuff. I know when I join his stream first thing, he's gonna have Mega Man Soccer playing. He's gonna have his little schedule up there with what he's gonna do that day. And then when he jumps in, he tells us, this is what we're gonna do. This is why I'm doing it. And then he plays through it. He's got tons of like cues and things that come up during the stream, like things that you can use your channel points on. He's optimized it super well.
Mm-hmm.
It looks good. It's super simple and straightforward, but it like I love watching his streams and like I've fallen asleep to his streams before because it's just like a relaxing, like I know what to expect. I know what I'm getting when I come in here. And that's what I strive for. I don't have as much of the like during stream structure yet, I don't think, but I everything surrounding that I
Mm-hmm.
do really I strive to have that in my streams.
Absolutely. And I think it's such a good thing as well, being able to like take these little tidbits from other streamers, and just because you're not exactly like stealing people's ideas, it's just like, oh, this works
Mhm,
for somebody's stream, I can do this in my own little way. But it's like it's
mhm,
just basically like just a basic like inspiration for like how to help. It's like, okay, well, this is what someone's done and made it work. I can make this work for myself by you just add a little dash of innovation and just
mhm,
intuition, and then you kind of have your own thing that you like created. And I think no
mhm.
whoever has like 100% original idea in these things anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like with it's kind of like the innovation and like idea, like playing with ideas that we saw a lot, that we probably still see a lot in TV.
Hmm.
Like when you think about sitcoms, it's like, oh, they took this from Seinfeld, right? We all have our Seinfeld that we think about when we're like going in and creating something.
Hmm. For sure.
And that's how I feel when I'm like thinking of ways to improve my stream is how are other people making a successful stream, an engaging stream, and what ways can I like use those ideas to build something that I that fits me, that fits my stream and my audience.
Hmm.
That's kind of where how I try to pull those ideas.
Yeah, and that's, you know what, that's, I think that's like a kind of best way to do it, because it's like what keeps people engaged, like, and that's
Mhm.
it's, yeah, it's a good way to sort of like keep some people around sometimes. And yeah, it's nice to have like something to kind of do a little bit of fun, just to kind of, because watching it is great, having something to do and chat and all, and just like, we point system things and all that, like it's
Mhm.
a little bit of a game people can play alongside, and I know that like with people's streams, in terms of that, I definitely make a lot of use out of these things too. So it's yeah, it's
Oh yeah.
definitely something good. But Craigie, listen, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast. It's been an absolute treat having you. Do you have any sort of final words to say to the listeners, viewers?
Well, Andy, thanks for having me. You're a great friend. I'm glad I could come on and be as part of this. Of course, if you aren't following me yet, go ahead and look for me at
Yep,
the little names down there on
definitely do.
TikTok and Twitch. Um, yeah, if you're out there and you're like, oh man, I want to start streaming, I don't know where to start. There are discords out there for myself and for Andy. You can ask you can ask me. I'm sure Andy would be happy to answer questions too.
Absolutely.
Um, it, as I mentioned before, like don't if you're going into it, don't go into it for the money. Go into it because you want to have your own little community that you can spend time with and have a good time like learning a game or playing with other people. That's 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 kind of my thing. I guess that's kind of on topic with the podcast here. Um, definitely, I encourage you to stream, but I encourage you to do it for the right reasons.
Absolutely. Absolutely solid piece of advice yet again from Craigie there. And thank you again. Yes, guys, this has been another episode of Behind the Camera with AndyGames. I am AndyGames_94. I've been with CraigyBoi at DeadGuyDrives. You can find him on TikTok at CraigyBoi or DedGuyDrives, and on Twitch at DedGuyDrives, but the dead does not have an A. um, yes, once again, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Craigie, for being a part of this. It's been a pleasure. We will be back again soon with another guest. But until then, thanks again, and I will see you next time.